Someone has been controlling you. They know which compliment to offer to make you soften, which sigh to drop to make you fix their mess, which silence to hold until you apologize for what you didn't do. That isn't love. It's control. And it works because most people react first and think later. This video ends that. For the next hour, we're going to turn emotional warfare into a losing game. For them. You'll learn a set of stoic tactics that don't rely on shouting threats or games. No chaos, no drama, just calm, precise moves that starve manipulation of the one thing it needs to live: your reaction. If an hour seems like a long time, first consider that it is merely 4% of your day, and then think about how much better your life will be when you use the knowledge you're about to gain and free yourself from the manipulators in your life. Is that freedom worth 4% of one single day? For your sake, I hope you answered yes. So, why Stoicism? Because the Stoics solved the oldest problem in psychology long before it had a name. People can't hijack a mind that governs itself. They trained 3 disciplines: how you perceive, how you act, and how you endure, until external pressure stopped deciding internal state. Manipulators lean on speed and confusion. Stoicism slows the moment, clears the frame, and returns control to your hands. Here's what you can expect. First, we'll build your shield. You'll learn how to use cold silence without looking weak, how to detach from outcomes so guilt stops working, and how to mirror someone's words so their stories collapse under their own weight. A single question, placed exactly right, can make a gaslighter explain themselves until the lie shows up uninvited. You'll see it happen. Then we go on offense. You'll discover a framing move that drags any messy, emotional argument back onto solid ground, facts, timelines, and choices, where clarity lives and manipulation perishes. You'll learn a boundary method that doesn't escalate, doesn't plead, and doesn't invite debate. It simply closes the door and keeps it closed. There's also an upgrade to something called the grey rock approach that keeps you unreadable without turning you into a doormat. Most people do grey rock wrong. You won't. Finally, we build your fortress, the inner citadel the Stoics talked about. You'll learn how to separate your emotions from your identity. This is anger, not me. You'll practice a simple 2-breath protocol that prevents ambush responses in texts, meetings, and fights. And you'll adopt a Stoic habit that turns every manipulative attempt into training data. By the end, the same tricks that once hooked you will teach you, because you'll be watching without being captured. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "How did I end up apologizing?" This is for you. If your kindness has been used as leverage, if you've been guilted with "after everything I've done for you," if you've been told you're too sensitive when you're simply accurate, stay. The problem isn't that you feel. The problem is that you haven't been shown how to direct feeling rather than be driven by it. Stoicism isn't numbness, it's nerve. It's the courage to stand inside your own standards while the room tries to move you. It's the decision to value truth over performance. And it's the discipline to pause exactly when the other person needs you to panic. Before we begin, a promise. This is not theory dressed up as wisdom. Every tactic you'll hear is field-tested, condensed into steps you can use the moment this video ends. You'll get phrases you can say word for word, cues to watch for in real time, and a structure you can lean on when your heart rate spikes. No filler, no fluff. Along the way, I'll open a few doors you'll want to walk through. the one-sentence line that ends most guilt trips without a fight. The timing trick that makes stonewalling backfire on the manipulator, and the exact posture, physical and verbal, that signals boundary set without raising your voice. You don't have to outshout a manipulator. You have to out-center them. So take a breath. Square your shoulders. For the next hour, consider this your training ground. By the time we're done, you won't just know about manipulation. You'll be unplayable. The strings will be visible, the knots easy to cut, and the person who once pulled you around will have a problem they can't solve. You no longer react on command, you respond on purpose, and that changes everything. Now, as we dive in, please take a second to simply click, like, and subscribe. It would really help us reach more people, and it would help you see more empowering videos like this one. So let's start with some of the basics of shielding your mind from negativity like a master stoic. Chapter 1. Psychological defense. You can't fight manipulation by arguing louder or winning debates. You win by becoming unreachable, by building a mind so stable that chaos can scream at the gates and you don't even flinch. That's the first discipline of Stoicism, psychological defense, the shield. Before you ever confront a manipulator out there, you must disarm the one in here, the inner voice that panics, explains, or seeks approval. Every manipulator plays on those cracks. They study emotion, timing, and silence like a script. But Stoics, we write our own. So in this first chapter, you'll learn 3 ruthless mental shields: how to weaponize silence, how to see through emotional bait, and how to stop giving people the handles they use to move you. When you master these, you stop being predictable. And when you're no longer predictable, you become unplayable. Let's begin. Tactic 1. The cold silence. Manipulators thrive on noise. Every protest, every "but I didn't mean it," every emotional defense feeds them. It gives them data, leverage, rhythm. The moment you react, they calibrate. So, the first Stoic tactic is the cold silence, intentional quiet, not avoidance. It's the power of removing the fuel source without removing your presence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That doesn't mean roll over. It means maintain control of your expression, not theirs. When someone throws emotional bait, count to 3 before speaking. In those seconds, 2 things happen. Their performance stalls. They don't get the feedback loop they were fishing for. Your mind clears. You observe instead of participate. This isn't passive. It's surgical. It's psychological judo, redirecting force instead of absorbing it. If you feel the urge to explain yourself, don't. If they ask, "Why are you so quiet?" answer with a calm, "I'm just thinking." That line terrifies manipulators because it implies control. Cold silence isn't distance, it's discipline. It's a reminder that your words are currency, and you no longer spend them on chaos. Tactic 2. The mirror technique. The second tactic turns their own words into a reflection they can't stand to see. Manipulators often hide behind ambiguity. They'll twist phrases, shift blame, or reframe truth until you doubt your memory. The Stoic answer is mirroring, repeating their claims back neutrally and calmly, forcing clarity. Example: them, "You're always so selfish lately." You think I've been acting selfishly lately. That's it. No defense, no counterattack, just a mirror. Here's why it works. You remove emotional engagement and demand specifics. Their vague weapon turns into a factual conversation. Either they explain and expose their exaggeration, or they back off. Seneca wrote, "Truth is simple. The unwise complicate it." Mirroring drags communication back to simplicity, where truth lives. It also resets dominance. Manipulators expect emotional spirals. Instead, they get stillness. That stillness unnerves them. Pro tip: maintain steady eye contact and neutral tone. Don't soften it with nervous laughter or, "I just want to understand." You're not seeking approval. You're holding a mirror. In time, you'll notice something strange. People who communicate in good faith respond well to mirroring. Manipulators, however, feel exposed. That's how you'll know who's who. Tactic 3. Emotional minimalism. The third tactic is about reducing the surface area of your emotions. Every manipulator survives on access to your empathy, guilt, outrage, and fear. Emotional minimalism means you stop giving full access to everyone. You become a controlled environment. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means managing their visibility. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but freedom from being ruled by passion. When someone tries to provoke you, pause and name what you feel. That's irritation. That's confusion. That's guilt. Then remind yourself, these are mine. They don't get to use them. By labeling emotion, you move from feeling to awareness to control. Neuroscience now agrees. Naming emotion deactivates its power in the amygdala. Marcus Aurelius would have smiled at that. Emotional minimalism also applies digitally. Don't overshare. Don't explain boundaries in essays. Say them once, clearly, and let silence hold the line. When people can't predict your emotional buttons, they stop pushing. And that's the quiet victory Stoicism trains you for, not being untouched, but being untouchable. All right. So the first 3 tactics built your surface armor: silence, mirrors, and emotional control. But real Stoic mastery goes deeper. Because while silence shields you, perception saves you. The next 4 tactics are about sharpening that perception until you see manipulation before it lands, like spotting a shadow before the blow. Tactic 4. Radical observation. Most people listen to words. Stoics listen to patterns. Manipulators don't just talk, they broadcast. Tone, timing, micro-delays, fake laughter, guilt-loaded pauses. Every gesture tells a story about control. Radical observation means you stop trying to defend your position and start diagnosing theirs. When someone accuses you out of nowhere, pause and ask internally, what are they afraid of losing right now? That question changes everything. You stop hearing their words as truth and start hearing them as strategy. Marcus Aurelius trained this in his journal. He described others' motives as if he were dissecting them, not out of cynicism, but out of self-protection. See the thing for what it is, he wrote. Strip away the legend. Try this. Next time someone acts erratic, observe without reacting. Do they speed up when you hesitate? Do they go quiet when you stop explaining? Every manipulator has a rhythm, and when you notice it, you own it. Here's the twist. Radical observation doesn't just reveal others, it reveals you. You'll start to see your own tells, your body language when you feel cornered, your breathing when you're anxious. We'll use that later in the strategic offense chapter to turn observation into control. But for now, keep watching. The first person you learn to read should be yourself. Tactic 5. Detach from outcome. Every manipulator has one secret weapon: your need for things to go a certain way. Your need for closure. Your need to be understood. Your need to fix things. They can't move you until you care how the scene ends. So the Stoic learns the art of detachment. Epictetus said it like this: when you want something outside your control, you make yourself a slave. Here's how it plays out. You confront someone who's lying. Instead of accountability, they spin, they twist it until you're defending your tone. Why? Because you wanted truth. They used that desire to steer you. The Stoic response: maybe you're right. Not sarcasm, surrender of control. You remove the bait. You no longer chase justice in their frame. You step out of the theater completely, detach from the outcome, and you detach from their game. That's how you win arguments without winning them. Here's your drill. The next time you enter a conflict, ask, what's my real goal here? If it's peace, closure, or validation, you're already vulnerable. Replace it with clarity or composure. Those are yours to control. Later in Chapter 2, we'll use this same detachment offensively to control the frame itself. But you can't command a battlefield you're still emotionally fighting to survive on. Start detaching now. Control the game by no longer needing to play it. Tactic 6. Self-Interrogation. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every manipulator that ever worked on you had your permission. Not consciously, but emotionally. They found an unlocked door, guilt, approval, pride, and walked in. The Stoic answer is self-interrogation, a ritual of asking before reacting, what exactly am I protecting right now? When you feel cornered, this question does two things. It interrupts autopilot. It reveals the ego trigger the manipulator is pressing. Maybe it's your image as the nice one. Maybe it's your identity as the calm one. Maybe it's your need to look right. The Stoics called this prososh, attention. It's mental vigilance. Next time someone tries to guilt you with, I can't believe you do that after everything I've done, don't answer the statement. Answer the question behind it. Why does this bother me? If the answer is pride, shame, or fear, breathe once and let it pass. This is psychological judo. You redirect the attack inward, dissolve it, and return to neutrality. And here's where it gets powerful. When you practice this long enough, manipulators stop recognizing you. You stop offering emotional buttons, and they lose their map. That confusion, that's your freedom. Keep this question ready, because in Chapter 3, we'll weaponize it for total emotional sovereignty. Tactic 7. Value mapping. The final tactic of this chapter is the Stoics' moral compass, your value map. You cannot defend yourself if you don't know what's worth defending. Manipulators thrive in people-pleasers because they confuse kindness with compliance. Value mapping ends that. Here's the process. Write down your top 3 non-negotiables, not vague ideals like honesty or respect. Specific boundaries like, I don't justify decisions twice. I don't explain emotions to people who dismiss them. I don't argue with bad faith. These are your Stoic laws. They don't require anger, explanation, or validation. They simply exist. When someone pushes you to break them, visualize Marcus Aurelius's line, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." That's it. No debate. Just alignment. Every manipulator wants to drag you into emotional fog. Your value map is the compass that keeps you walking straight through it. And here's the curiosity loop. This map isn't just defensive. In the next chapter, we'll use it to invert control. When you lead with values, you dictate the emotional tempo of every interaction. The manipulator becomes reactive to you. But before we move to offense, remember this: the strongest shield isn't stone, it's clarity. And once you build that, nothing false can stay near you for long. Okay, we've made it through the basics of the Stoic mindset when it comes to dealing with manipulators. You've built the shield. You learned silence that starves a manipulator, mirrors that expose lies, and a value map that keeps you walking straight through the fog. If you thought that was enough, good, because now we turn the shield into a blade. Coming up next is where you stop merely surviving encounters and start shaping them. This is the part most people don't learn, and the part that wins arguments, ends guilt trips, and makes manipulators rethink their tactics. Stay with me. You'll get exact lines, timing drills, and a few posture secrets that change the room before a word is spoken. We'll also revisit a trick from Chapter 1, your value map, to flip dynamics without raising your voice. Later in Chapter 3, we'll use these same moves to build an internal fortress that never needs to use them. For now, however, we go on offense. Keep your ears open for the 2-breath protocol I promised earlier. We'll drop it into Tactic 11 to neutralize any gaslighting attempt in real time. Chapter 2, Strategic Offense, the Sword. We are not going to delay. Let's dive right in. Tactic 8, Stoic Delay. Time as a weapon. In combat sports, the best fighters don't just react faster, they control when the fight happens. The same principle applies to conversations. Manipulators want immediate responses because reaction creates chaos. Stoic delay flips that. Stoic delay is simple. Create calibrated pauses to collapse the manipulator's rhythm and force them into longer mental work. You're not being slow, you're prescribing tempo. Speed is their ally. Your delay is a weaponized pause. Execution is surgical. When provoked, inhale slowly, exhale, and count internally to 4 before you say anything. That 4 count seems small, but to the manipulator, it's an eternity. Their script depends on instant feedback. Laughter, guilt, tears, outrage. When that feedback is denied, their method erodes. Use language sparingly once you break the rhythm. A single sentence, measured, quiet, and precise, has more impact than 50 frantic defenses. Example: after someone accuses you of always being late, don't defend. Pause. Then say, "I hear that you feel frustrated. Let's set the facts." That flips the frame from blame to logistics, which is far less effective for emotional coercion. This tactic also works in text. Wait. Let the message sit. Many people assume that silence means guilt. Manipulators bank on that. When you delay, they make their own assumptions, often escalating into clarity you didn't need to create. Stoic delay is not passive avoidance, it's scheduled control. It tells the room that you will choose the tempo of reality, and people who need speed to manipulate will lose their advantage. Later in Chapter 3, we'll use this timing to cultivate internal calm, so delays become natural, not tactical. For now, practice the 4 count and watch how a conversation's energy shifts under your feet. Tactic 9. Control the frame. People don't argue about facts, they argue about frames. A manipulator will spin the frame, turning "you made an error" into "you're incompetent," or transforming a boundary into abandonment. Control the frame, and you control the debate. The frame is the question that organizes meaning. If they ask, "Why didn't you care?" the frame is guilt. If you reframe to, "What decisions are we making?" the frame becomes responsibility. Your job is to name the correct frame and refuse every other. How to do it in practice. When an emotional accusation lands, label the existing frame aloud, then offer a more useful one. Example: them. "You left me hanging. Don't you care?" You. That's a feeling. The frame here is whether we communicated expectations. Let's talk timeline, not intent. Notice the language. You don't deny the emotion, you relocate it. Emotion remains valid, except you refuse to let it define the terms of the exchange. That shift forces manipulators into a weaker position because they now must argue facts or admit they were acting on feeling alone. Control the frame physically too. Lean forward a fraction, slow your speech, place your palms down on the table, small cues that say you own the floor. Dominant frames often come from confident posture more than clever phrasing. A warning: manipulators will try to reframe back with bait like, "So you're blaming me?" Stay calm, restate your frame, and ask a concrete question that anchors the discussion. We'll use frames offensively in Tactic 13, Principal Pivots. But first, make this a habit. Always name the frame you won't play by. It's a small verbal move that changes everything. Stick to it, and conversations stop being a minefield and become a map. Tactic 10. Strategic Ignorance, Feigning Confusion to Disarm. This one looks cruel on a montage because it betrays the manipulator's expectations. Strategic ignorance means intentionally choosing to be less helpful than they need you to be. It's not pretending to be dumb, it's refusing to supply the emotional scaffolding they rely on. When a manipulator uses vague accusations or guilt, respond with neutral requests for specificity. "Help me understand exactly where you mean." That line forces them to convert an emotional smear into a factual claim. Often, they can't. Vague attacks fall apart when asked to be exact. Another form is selective misunderstanding. If someone says, "You always make me feel worthless," reply with, "Give me one example from last week." Watch how they trip. Most will escalate, invent, or double down. If they can't provide specifics, the accusation has no weight. Strategic ignorance is also a powerful text tactic. Answer a demand for an immediate emotional response with a clear boundary. "I'm not available to discuss this right now. Give me the facts and a time." Requesting structure is a silent refusal to be manipulated. Just a quick caveat: use this sparingly. If overused, it can appear disingenuous. But when applied precisely, it's a surgical instrument, turning emotional fog into daylight and forcing manipulators to either clarify or expose their bait. This tactic pairs beautifully with the mirror technique from Chapter 1. Mirror first to slow them, then ask for specifics to collapse the accusation. Later, we'll combine strategic ignorance with stoic. Delay to create a timing, trap. They'll reveal their method before they realize they're caught. Tactic 11. Reverse the spotlight. Make them explain themselves. Manipulators thrive in the light when it's on you. Reverse the spotlight by directing the room's focus back on them, calmly, precisely, and with a single question that strips performance away. Choose your questions like tools. What outcome are you trying to create? Which part of this matters most to you? Help me understand your timeline. Each question forces them to convert emotional claims to intentions. That translation is deadly for manipulators because their power is subtlety, not clarity. Asking for clarity is an invitation they rarely accept willingly. The real power of this tactic is in the follow-up. Silence. After they answer, don't fill the gap. Hold the pause. Let them feel the weight of their own words. People are rarely used to being asked to explain themselves and then left without the immediate rush of others defending them. The silence makes them fill in the rest, and often they contradict themselves. We promised a practical protocol earlier, the 2-breath protocol. Use it here. Ask your question, inhale 2 measured breaths, and wait. Those breaths create the space where truth often breaks through. It's small, physical, and it looks like composure. Composure is contagious. Others in the room will take your cue. This tactic also signals psychological authority. It tells everyone that you require coherence. When you consistently demand clarity, manipulators either comply or look foolish. Both outcomes are wins. Keep this in your toolkit. In Chapter 3, you'll learn to internalize the confidence that makes this feel effortless. For now, practice asking one precise question in every charged exchange and pairing it with the 2-breath pause. The room will start to behave differently around you. Tactic 12. The Grey Rock. Upgrade. Predictable. Calm. With a twist. You've heard of grey rocking. Be boring to avoid drama. Most people botch it. They go deadpan and become a target for escalation. The grey rock upgrade keeps the unplayable quality but adds calm unpredictability. A stoic charm that looks unreactive yet alert. The difference is this. A traditional grey rock is neutral and unengaged. The upgraded version is neutral and present. You remain non-reactive, but you also occasionally interject short, oddly specific remarks that show you're watching, without giving emotional currency. Think of it as being the silent predator who occasionally taps the glass to remind the fish there's something larger watching. How to execute. Where a grey rock might offer one-word answers, the upgrade offers brief, specific pivots, facts, timing, or value statements. Example, instead of fine or whatever, say, noted, we'll revisit this Monday at noon. Or, I see that. My priority is clarity, not drama. This approach does 2 things. It denies emotional satisfaction and signals leadership. Manipulators expect either explosive reaction or blankness. When you give measured, specific calmness, they lose their categories and people in the room start to mirror your composure. Another element, unpredictability. Occasionally laugh softly at absurd accusations, not mockingly, or ask an unexpected logistical question. These micro-behaviors break their script and keep you interesting in a way that is not emotionally generous. Use the grey rock upgrade when de-escalation is the goal, but dominance is still required. It's subtle. Lean on it in family dinners, work meetings, and online. Soon, manipulators will sense that you're not worth the effort. And when they stop trying, you've won. Tactic 13, the principal pivot. Boundaries as creed. Boundaries can be argued with. Principles cannot, at least not without revealing motive. The principal pivot reframes a boundary as an unassailable moral or practical law. It's not personal, it's procedural. Instead of "I don't like being spoken to that way," pivot to "Our conversations follow a rule. We don't assign character from a single incident. If you'd like to address behavior, we can. You've moved from emotional plea to policy." This tactic works because manipulators are often moral opportunists. They weaponize values when convenient. The principal pivot weaponizes principle against them. It forces them to either accept the rule and change behavior, or admit they were using morality as leverage. Make your principles short, repeatable, and non-negotiable. Post them mentally or even literally in personal notes. Examples: we don't escalate without examples. We don't weaponize past kindness. We don't demand proof of loyalty as a test. When someone tries to bait you into moral drama, state the principle and hold it. Deliver the pivot with calm, steady language. No pleading, no shame. Use a neutral voice and minimal words. Principles, when stated plainly, remove theatricality from the room. Keep watching, because later, in Chapter 3, I will go deeper. How living by principle internally rewires your entire response system so you don't need to deploy these tactics. For now, practice one principle per week and watch how quickly manipulative patterns lose traction. Tactic 14. Silent accountability. Expose without accusing. There's a moment in every manipulative relationship where words stop working. You've reasoned, clarified, and reframed, and still they twist. That's when the Stoic stops talking and starts showing. Silent accountability is the art of letting someone's actions reveal their own motives, without feeding the drama with reaction or blame. Instead of saying, "You lied," you keep a written record of what was agreed upon. Instead of, "You never follow through," you calmly reread their own message, their own promise in front of them. You don't accuse, you simply reflect evidence into silence. This tactic works because manipulators thrive on emotional ping-pong, accusation, defense, denial, outrage. When you replace all that with quiet facts, they're cornered by their own history. Seneca put it best: time discovers truth. It is the philosopher's witness, so let time speak for you. Here's how you apply it practically. Document commitments without malice. Got it. Just noting this down for clarity. Revisit calmly when patterns repeat. Here's what was said. Let's return to that. Resist the urge to interpret. Truth doesn't need commentary. It needs consistency. The beauty of silent accountability is that it depletes their energy, not yours. It exposes dishonesty without you ever raising your tone. And most importantly, it teaches you patience. Because every manipulator eventually reveals themselves if you give them enough rope and stay still enough to watch. Keep this one close. In Chapter 3, you'll learn how this same stillness becomes something far greater than strategy. It becomes serenity. But before that, take a breath, because we're about to move from tactics to transformation. Chapter 3. Stoic Ascendancy. The Mind Fortress. Up until now, we've played defense and offense, but that still assumes there's a game to play. True Stoic mastery is when you no longer need tactics at all, because your state of being itself dissolves manipulation before it forms. This is where ancient Stoicism and modern psychology merge. In Chapter 1, you learned how to shield the mind. In Chapter 2, how to redirect others' behavior. Now, in Chapter 3, you'll learn how to transcend it entirely by mastering your own perception, your reactions, and your will. Think of this chapter as the inner citadel, the fortress Marcus Aurelius built in his mind while leading Rome through war and betrayal. He couldn't control armies, plagues, or politics, but he could control himself, and that was enough to command everything else. The next 7 tactics will sound quieter, but they're the most powerful of all. They will teach you how to stop giving meaning to manipulative acts, transform adversity into psychological training, and rebuild your identity from principles, not performance. Let's start where all transformation begins, with the decision to take full responsibility for everything that lives inside your walls. Tactic 15. Radical responsibility. The easiest way to stay manipulated is to keep blaming manipulators. Radical responsibility ends that cycle. It's the moment you say, everything inside my head, my peace, my anger, my attention, is mine to govern. That doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means refusing to outsource your emotional sovereignty. Epictetus taught this relentlessly. Some things are in our control, others not. Radical responsibility is choosing to live only inside the first half of that sentence. When someone provokes you, your instinct says, "They made me feel this." The Stoic correction is, "They offered emotion. I accepted it." That tiny shift changes your entire existence. Because now, every attack becomes data, every trigger becomes training, and every manipulative person becomes your practice partner in self-command. To apply this, build a new reflex. When you feel yourself blaming, reframe it as feedback. What does this situation reveal about me? That question turns chaos into curriculum. Over time, radical responsibility feels less like burden and more like superpower. You stop fearing manipulative people because they can't access what you don't give. Their power dies where your ownership begins. Keep this one alive in your daily interactions. It's the seed that grows into every tactic that follows. And in a moment, we'll take it one level deeper, building your fortress of identity where no manipulation can even find a door. Tactic 16. The inner citadel. Building an identity they can't touch. Marcus Aurelius imagined the mind as a fortress on fire, chaos outside, stillness within. That image wasn't poetry, it was survival. Manipulators win by making you question who you are. The inner citadel is the place they can't reach. Here's the Stoic blueprint. Define your virtues: courage, wisdom, self-control, justice. Measure success not by approval, but by alignment with those virtues. Return to that list every time you're attacked. If someone calls you selfish, ask, does this violate my virtue of justice? If not, disregard it. That's Stoic math. Your worth stops fluctuating with other people's stories. Your peace becomes structural, not situational. The inner citadel isn't about isolation. It's about integration. You live in the world, but your peace doesn't depend on it anymore. Here's a curiosity loop to carry forward. Later in this chapter, we'll talk about transcendent indifference, the final form of this idea, where you stop defending the fortress altogether because nothing can invade it. But first, let's master the internal mechanics, the ability to see emotions without being them. Tactic 17. Disidentify from emotion. You are not your anger. You are not your guilt. You are the observer of both. This is one of the most radical teachings of Stoicism and the one modern psychology finally caught up to. When you disidentify from emotion, you stop drowning in it and start steering it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Here's a simple protocol. When emotion hits, label it aloud. This is frustration. This is fear. This is embarrassment. Then follow with, "It is not me." That sentence cuts the puppet strings instantly. Try it next time someone tries to guilt you, bait you, or charm you. The moment you name the feeling, you activate your prefrontal cortex. You move from instinct to awareness, and once you can see emotion, you can use it. In the next tactic, we'll take this same idea and weaponize it, turning manipulation into momentum through one of the most misunderstood Stoic ideas. Amor Fati, the love of fate. Because when you can love the lesson in the chaos, manipulation stops being danger and starts being discipline. Tactic 18. Amor Fati warfare. Love what was meant to break you. Every manipulator you've met was, in truth, a teacher you didn't sign up for. The Stoics called this Amor Fati, love of fate. But not a soft, romantic love, a warrior's acceptance. It means this: everything that happens to you, even betrayal, humiliation, or gaslighting, belongs to your training. You don't just endure it, you use it. Epictetus said, "Do not wish for things to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will find peace." That wasn't surrender, it was psychological jujitsu. Imagine this: every manipulative encounter, every emotional ambush, every moment you felt tricked or small becomes a weight on your mental barbell. You stop asking, "Why me?" and you start asking, "How can I grow from this?" This flips the entire power dynamic, because manipulators feed on your resentment. They want you bitter, not better. When you practice Amor Fati, you rob them of that satisfaction. You convert their attack into fuel. Try this reframing exercise. When something painful happens, say, "Good. This is training." You'll feel your nervous system shift, your breathing slows, your posture straightens. You stop being the victim in the narrative and start being the architect. Here's the twist most people miss. Amor Fati doesn't mean loving pain. It means loving the potential hidden inside pain, the discipline, the awareness, the peace that emerges after you face it cleanly. Over time, you realize manipulation no longer disturbs you. It refines you. You begin to thank those moments silently, because each one hammers your character into unbreakable form. That's Amor Fati warfare, not resignation, but resurrection. And soon, this will tie directly into the next discipline, the art of perception control, where you'll learn to see everything, even chaos, as data for refinement. Because when you stop labeling things as good or bad, nothing can shake you, only shape you. Tactic 19. Perception discipline. Rewriting the meaning of reality. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That's not philosophy, it's neurology. Perception discipline is the Stoic's way of becoming the artist of his own mind. Every manipulator, every critic, every external stressor is trying to hand you a paintbrush dipped in their color, anger, guilt, fear, and you, if you aren't aware, start painting with it. This tactic breaks that loop. When someone attacks, pause and ask, what story am I telling myself about this? Maybe your story is, they disrespected me, or they think I'm weak. The Stoic correction is, an event happened. My story created suffering. Detach meaning from the moment. Then deliberately rewrite it. Example. They ghosted you. You could interpret it as rejection or redirection. They insulted you. You could see humiliation or a stress test for your composure. They lied to you. You could feel betrayed or educated. The situation never changes, only the narrative frame does. And as you saw in Chapter 2, whoever controls the frame controls the game. Now you're doing it internally. Here's a deeper level. Practice perception discipline in real time. When conflict starts rising, whisper to yourself, neutral data. That one phrase interrupts emotional coloring and restores choice. You'll notice something strange after a few weeks of doing this. People around you start calming down faster. They mirror your neutrality. You've become a walking stabilizer, the eye in every storm. This tactic turns you from a reactor into a refractor, bending energy instead of breaking under it. And the next step, emotional minimalism too, builds on that stillness, turning calm from a tactic into an aura, because once peace becomes visible, manipulation becomes impossible. Tactic 20, Emotional Minimalism. Part 2, Tranquility as Power. In Chapter 1, you learned emotional minimalism as protection, reducing the surface area of emotion so manipulators couldn't grab hold. Now we evolve it. Emotional minimalism, too, transforms tranquility into intimidation. Because there's a certain kind of silence, not the cold withdrawal of fear, but the steady presence of composure that unsettles even the most practiced manipulator. They sense it. They can't read you anymore. Their usual tactics, guilt, flattery, outrage, all fall flat, and something in them panics. Seneca said, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." Your goal here is to cultivate a mind so still that the future feels like a rumor. Here's how you build it. Micro-calm training. Before every response, inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6. It doesn't sound like much, but it physically shifts your nervous system into parasympathetic mode, signaling safe. Your calm becomes contagious. Minimal words speak 60% less in conflict. Each word then carries 3 times the gravity. Manipulators rely on emotional chatter. Remove it, and you remove their supply. Still body language. Stillness reads as strength. Don't nod excessively. Don't fidget. Your body becomes the anchor others instinctively look to. Over time, this transforms from discipline to aura. People feel your centeredness before you say a word. And here's the beautiful paradox. You don't achieve this calm by trying to seem powerful. You achieve it by surrendering the need to appear powerful at all. Your serenity becomes self-sustaining. It's not armor you wear, it's gravity you emit. Keep this practice alive, because in our final tactic, we'll take this stillness to its ultimate expression, transcendent indifference. where even the idea of control dissolves, and freedom finally replaces fear. Tactic 21. Transcendent Indifference, the final freedom. This is the end of the road and the beginning of peace. Transcendent indifference doesn't mean apathy. It means liberation from the illusion that anything outside you must obey your will to justify your peace. The Stoics didn't aim to be stone. They aimed to be stars, untouched by storms, shining regardless of what rages below. To reach this state, you must release even the subtle wish to be untouched, because indifference, when it's forced, is fragile. True indifference flows naturally when you've mastered all the disciplines before it: silence without coldness, observation without judgment, responsibility without blame, calm without suppression. At that level, no manipulator can reach you because you don't even live on the same emotional frequency. Here's the secret. The ultimate Stoic doesn't resist manipulation. He renders it irrelevant. He knows that every external act, praise, insult, deceit, is simply weather. And weather doesn't define the mountain. In practical life, this means you no longer need tactics. You don't rehearse lines. You don't brace for attacks. You simply remain. You exist in a quiet posture of awareness, unreactive but not numb, present but not possessed. When someone lies, you don't rush to expose it. You watch truth reveal itself through time. When someone tries to guilt you, you don't defend. You simply don't absorb. And when someone leaves, you let them, because you no longer chase what was never meant to stay. That is transcendent indifference, not the death of emotion, but the death of dependency. It is the highest Stoic freedom, when peace stops being a state you fight for and becomes the air you breathe. This is where the manipulator disappears, not because you destroyed them, but because your world no longer contains the conditions for them to exist. Now you understand. Stoicism isn't about being totally untouchable at every moment. It's about being unmoved, rooted so deeply in your own virtue that no voice, no trick, no praise or insult can sway your center. You've built the shield, you've sharpened the sword, and now you stand inside the fortress, calm, awake, untamed. So, when manipulation returns, and it will, remember, it's not an attack, it's a test, and you have already passed it. From this moment forward, no one controls your peace, no one dictates your worth, and no one ever again gets to pull your strings, because the Stoic doesn't just survive the game, he ends it by refusing to play. Now take this knowledge and put it to work. Let us know in the comments if you do any of these or if you have other thoughts. We look forward to connecting with you and all of our other subscribers in the comments. And while you're here, check out one of our other videos. And as always, stay stoic, my friends.